DraftSociety.com presents a Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast. Welcome to the Key Pass Collective. Your exclusive source for the information, analysis, and advice you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. Come on in. We've been expecting you.
What is happening, draft heads? Welcome back in to a very special episode of the Key Pass Collective. My name's Joe Williams. I'll be your host here for this particular episode. For the second straight year, we've got a very special way to kick off the draft season, and it's early yet. We are talking on the 3rd of July today, but we are going to kick it off with a mock draft, with an invite-only mock draft, you could say. So this is between members of the Draft Society and members of the Inner Circle, which I'll give you some details here in just a second on how to join the Inner Circle if you're interested in doing that. But today we are going to have the first mock draft of the season. Things to keep in mind, obviously, that things are ever-changing with the landscape in terms of transfers, players in and out, effect of the Euros. There's a lot of moving parts. So just things to keep in mind that this is very early, but it's going to give us a barometer at least to try to figure out where we're at with player valuations here at this point in the year. So if you want to join the aforementioned Inner Circle, let me give you some information here. First of all, we just announced, if you're not part of our emailing list, you need to get on our email list. Go to the DraftSociety.com and join that. You'll be part of the email list, and you'll get all the notifications. But we just announced that the actual draft kit, the 24-25 draft kit, will be dropping on the 15th of July at the conclusion of the Euros. So if you want to get the draft kit, which features an insane amount of things, whether you are looking for rankings, whether you're looking for previews of every single Premier League team, also flashbacks of every single Premier League team that will be available on day one of the draft kit this year. Again, that's a new thing that we're implementing this year. That plus tiered rankings, cheat sheets, all of the mock draft collections that we do, every mock draft that we do as a Draft Society and Inner Circle mock drafts, those will all be saved in a collection that you'll be able to access and look at, see how people are valuing certain players, see which rounds players are going in. So that, plus we have a live draft aid that will help you through your draft. It's a little app that we've developed. It's amazing. That plus so much more. There are strategy articles, when to take defenders, what the forward landscape looks like this year, the effect of the Euros and the Copa on this year's draft assets. There's so much there. So you've got two options as far as that goes. The draft kit can be had for $15 straight up, and that will get you everything I've just mentioned in the draft kit, get you ready for your drafts whenever they're happening in July or August. You can also, for $70 US, that's going to set you up for the entire season. Now remember, we're talking, 9 months of content here. So we really think it's well worth it. Plus, we're going to call that the Ultimate Pass. The Ultimate Pass is going to get you the draft toolkit as well. The fantasy toolkit that we rolled out last year is an insane value. It cuts your prep time weekly. Just by an exponential amount, really. It is bespoke to your particular Fantrax ID, and it is going to give you pickups in your specific league. It's going to give you power rankings for every single team in your league. It's going to give you trade valuations for your players to see what you might be able to trade for a certain player. What's this player, quote unquote, worth in a trade? That plus so much more. Fixture difficulty trackers, rest of season player values, and it's constantly updated every single game week. Help you with pickups, help you with waiver wire additions, help you with trades. It's all there. So head over to thedraftsociety.com if you'd be willing to help out an independent fantasy football website. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And that can all be had on 15th of July dropping the draft kit and the ultimate pass. We would really appreciate the support. Community, you're the best. Let's go ahead and get to this mock draft. All right. We are off to the races. The draft has officially begun. We're here in round 1 already, and just about a minute and a half ago the draft started. We saw Erling Haaland go off the board first, and then Cole Palmer second. I am third. So I'm actually on the clock at the moment. Going to waste a little bit of time here for a second because the Draft Society's one and only Ryan Barnes, who is currently on vacation, has found some time in his schedule to mock with us. And so he's actually going to be taking over my mock draft position here at number 3 so that I can commentate and he can mock. So yeah, we're gonna do the best we can here. But regardless, I am going to go ahead and take Bukayo Saka here. Well, I wonder what Ryan wants to do. There it is. All right, Ryan is in. He has taken Bukayo Saka at the 3rd pick overall. And so we're off to the races, as I said. So let's talk some specifics here, just kind of some things to sort of keep in mind in terms of this draft. This is a 12-team draft, so it's going to be fairly standard, kind of your default sort of draft. We have a lot of the members of the community that you're used to seeing, so some Draft Society members. We've got me, we've got Draft Genie, we've got Ryan Barnes in there, who's actually drafting in my spot, as mentioned. We've got Totti, and then I think that's it. And then for the rest of the members of this mock draft, we have Draft Alchemy, people are familiar with. Leica, if you're a member of the community, you've probably played against him in some leagues previously. Some other various, folks who are in the inner circle that I'm not actually going to divulge their names at this time. But if you've been on the live streams at all for the Key Pass Collective, you've seen them commenting in and about there. So yeah, it's a who's who. It's definitely a lot of guys who know what they're doing, and so we'll kind of keep you updated as the draft is going on. A few other things as this first round is taking shape. We had a few changes to the actual game this year, which nothing drastic, but we did have a few position changes. And so what we saw from that was a handful of forwards who acted more kind of as like wingers moved to the midfield position. This did a couple of things. So first of all, it encouraged kind of more uniformity across that position. So if you look at somebody like a Bukayo Saka, he was a midfielder, always was a midfielder. And so somebody like a Dengo Watara, there's no reason that he should be a forward while Saka is a midfielder. So we saw some of those changes take place. The other option, or the other benefit to that change is that it does help out with what I think managers last year struggled with a bit, in that there was a bit of a midfield dearth of players. So you had your high-end elite midfielders, and then from there, it got pretty thin pretty fast, and we found out that there was actually way more forwards than we were expecting there to be, who were actually pretty good last year. That probably had something to do with the sheer number of goals that were scored last year, which was wild. But regardless, we saw a lot of forwards from kind of mid to lower table teams step up, which really, really was helpful in the fantasy game. So yeah, those things just kind of to keep in mind. The other thing is there were a couple of tweaks to scoring changes for the default scoring on Fantrax. Now, the most important one for that was that the community was crying out for a change to defender scoring. We found out it was possible to incorporate some scoring settings where defenders would not be penalized the -2 for the first goal conceded. The community felt that the defenders were basically being double punished, right? Because they not only suffered the -2 for the first goal, but then they also lost the clean sheet. And so what we ended up doing was figuring out a way to make it so that defenders are no longer penalized that -2 points for the first goal conceded. They just lose the clean sheet. That should hopefully help, at least a little bit, should help with defender scoring this year. Although if the goals keep up, there's nothing we can do to help that. Let's be honest. It's just going to be another one of those years. So, okay, let's check in on the first round here. Pick 1, as I mentioned, Erling Haaland. Pick 2 was Cole Palmer. Wow. Just, wow, what a meteoric rise for that player. And I honestly would have been fine with him there as well. Pick 3, Bukayo Saka. Pick 4, Bruno Fernandes. Pick 5, Phil Foden. That, to me, is the power 5 right there. I think you're going to see that in most drafts this year. Pick 6 was Mohamed Salah. Pick 7, Ollie Watkins. Pick 8 already in the first round, Alexander Isak. That one, to me, little ballsy. I like it. Little ballsy, though. Pick 8 in the first round, Alexander Isak. Pick 9 was Eberechi Eze. Again, I mean, I think he's shown what he's capable of at this point. So, yeah, I like it. Pick 10, Martin Odegaard. Dang, in the first round. Pick 10, Martin Odegaard. He definitely ended the season like a first-round pick. Can he continue? Can he pick up where he left off? We're all hoping so. But, man, that's another one of those that is a gut call, certainly, if you're picking at the end of this first round. End of the first round actually is looking a little bit tricky because you got a lot of players that there is some question mark hanging over their head. Odegaard, can he repeat? He feels like a pretty solid pick there, though, to be honest, when you look at the rest of these. So 111, Son. Again, question marks. He was, by his standards, not great last year. And by fantasy manager standards, pretty frustrating to roster. So Son goes there at pick 11. And then on the turn, because remember, pick 12 gets the last pick of the first round and the first pick of the second round, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oh, man, we could have an entire pot on him. Trent Alexander-Arnold, does he move into midfield? Does he keep his right back spot? How does new manager Slot want to play him? That is interesting. So Trent Alexander-Arnold and James Maddison on the turn. This person is hoping for a resurgence from both of those players. Wow. All right, so 2-2, pick number 2 of the second round was Luis Diaz. Talk about question marks there. Yeah, ended the season pretty well. There have been some rumors swirling about will he get a transfer. That's, again, so to pair with Son, Luis Diaz and Son, that person set it forward if things pan out for them. The third pick of the second round, Anthony Gordon to pair with Martin Odegaard. What a midfield. Wow, that is tasty. Fourth pick of the second round is going to be Mohamed Kudus to pair with Eberechi Eze. I really like that as well. Set at midfield. And as we already talked about, we've got some depth at the forward position. And so that person should be able to come back around in that ninth pick of the third round and find themselves at least a decent forward to pair with those two. Fifth pick of the second round, Kieran Trippier to pair with Alexander Isak. Bit of a Newcastle fanboy there, maybe. I'm not quite sure. Sixth pick of the second round, Julian Alvarez to go with Ollie Watkins. Already some interesting concerns there for that person with rotation, with potentially Alvarez being sold. He said he's been open to the idea, so that is an interesting one there too. Seventh pick of the second round, Bruno Guimaraes. Man, I know what he did last year. I know. I just don't know if it's going to continue. He had weeks where he's putting up elite numbers. But by and large, I mean, the man's a defensive mid. Maybe he's done playing in that role. Maybe he's not going to. That's a really tough one. But seventh pick of the second round, before guys like De Bruyne, before guys like Gibbs White, before Bowen, I just don't know. I honestly maybe would have gone Rodri over him even. That's a really tough one if you ask me. But that person has Bruno and Salah paired up now. So, I mean, yeah, the they're going to play every minute of every game. So I guess you've got that going for you. All right. The guy pick number 5, and again, I'm not using names here because I'm trying to keep people anonymous. But the manager, we'll say, who took Phil Foden in the first round, pick number 5, has turned around and taken Kevin De Bruyne at pick number 8 of the second round. I know De Bruyne is getting older. I mean, I know that there's a lot of considerations to take into account, but at 8th pick in the second round, that's screaming value there, right? What's his actual value? It's really, really hard to say. Does he get injured again? He's playing a lot this summer. Don't love that. So yeah, I mean, it feels about right there, to be honest. And he goes right before Morgan Gibbs-White to the manager who had Bruno Fernandes in the first round. He goes right before, or after that, sorry, goes Jared Bowen to the manager who had Saka in the first round. So that's going to be that pick 3 that me and Ryan are drafting together. So, yep, Jared Bowen and Bukayo Saka for a strong midfield partnership to start off. And then pick number 2, we've got Dominic Solanke goes 11th pick in the second round to partner with that Cole Palmer first pick. And that is, again, interesting. Solanke, one of those under-the-radar guys that scores like a forward 1, even though, I mean, that name recognition, to hear him going in the second round might give people a bad taste in their mouths. But to be honest, yeah, he scores every bit like a forward 1, every bit like a fantasy asset that you absolutely want on your team. So we have a couple of picks that were picked and then taken back, which is interesting. It looks like maybe the timer expired on this manager who picked first. Again, they took Erling Haaland first overall, which I'll spend a moment on that because they are taking a second to make these picks. So, Erling Haaland, when I look at various different statistics, let me pull up this sheet here. When I look up various statistics regarding Erling Haaland, so as far as many of the metrics are concerned, he finished below a lot of the other guys that you're seeing go in the first round, especially those midfield components. So when you look at guys, like your Cole Palmers, Bukayo Saka, even Mohamed Salah, Erling Haaland finished with the points per start below those players. So Haaland's at 16. Those guys are at 16 plus, all of them. And when you look at points per start, I mean, generally for like an average, yeah, he's up there. But guys like, rest in peace, Olise. But Olise was at 20. Cole Palmer at 19. Bukayo Saka 16.4. So, yeah, I mean, he's up there. But again, Haaland, I don't know that he is the number 1 overall chalk have to do it pick this year that he has been in the past. I really think there's some consideration to be had, especially with that depth at forward. I find it really interesting. Okay, so let's revisit that play or that manager who took Haaland pick 1. He turned around and at 2-12, the 12th pick of the second round, he took Darwin Nunez. Man. Okay, so we've got 2 forwards, Darwin Nunez, hopefully starting for this manager. Otherwise, that could be a really rough one. He then turned around in the third round, pick 1, and took Pedro Neto. So, yep, very interesting. We don't know. Something might happen with Neto in terms of a transfer. We got to draft based on what we know today, right? So, that being the case, how do we? I mean, we can't speculate. It being a mock draft. We got to just kind of go with what we know for the moment. And so this person ends up with 3 incredibly strong forwards, provided Nunez plays. I'm going to be really curious to see what their midfield looks like in the 4th and 5th round, because they have to wait now 24 picks until they can take a midfielder, presumably. And that could catch up with them. Let's wait and see. Okay, the person who had pick 2, you remember they went Palmer and then Solanke? Well, they followed that up with Pascal Gross. Again, rumored to go to Germany, but we have to go with what we know at the moment. He's still a Brighton player. So that being the case, if he starts the season as a Brighton player, this person's going to be extremely excited with this mock draft, because that Solanke pick, while it felt maybe a little bit early, that Gross pick, he fell. He massively fell. If he stays. Big if he stays. Let's revisit pick number 3. Bukayo Saka, Jared Bowen. Followed that up with Kai Havertz. Again, if he keeps that position, if he keeps the form that he's in, love that. And all indications are that, at least for now, Gabriel Jesus is not winning that spot back from him. Why would he? Mikel Arteta is going to go with what has been working, and it's hard to argue against what Kai did at the end of the season. Man, far be it from me to say that. I used to be the biggest Kai hater. Yeah, third round. So there you are. Okay. The manager who's drafting 4th and took Bruno Fernandes and Morgan Gibbs-White has turned around and taken Diogo Jota. Now that's his forward 1. That is a gamble, to say the absolute least. That's a rotation guy, potentially. That's an injury-prone guy, and that's his forward 1. A little bit scary on that one. Let's see how he follows that up. Pick number 5, Foden De Bruyne. He's gone Nico Jackson, which is an interesting one. Chelsea out there shopping around like they always do, going on a spending spree, as they are wont to do. And so, yeah, does he keep the spot? If so, I don't mind the pick. As your forward 1, might be a little bit scary, but not bad. We've had the 3rd defender go off the board at pick 6 of the 3rd round. That is James Tarkowski. So to remind people what the defender landscape's looking like, we had Alexander-Arnold go pick 112. We had Kieran Trippier go pick 2-5. And now the next defender has not gone until the 3rd round, 6th pick. This is absolutely an indication of where we are at with defenders in this game. People were burnt last year. People were burnt by defenders. They did not deliver on draft day value. And so I think we're seeing people a little bit gun shy here in this mock draft on draft day to actually take a defender. I find that kind of interesting. So Tarkowski there for me is a pretty good value. I mean, that's one of those set and forget guys. Your entire season, you just leave him in there. And to get him in the 3rd round, it seems about right. Okay. 7th pick of the 3rd round is Ivan Toney, and that goes to the manager who already had Julian Alvarez and Ollie Watkins. Wow, quite the forward line. Again, so remember, pick 1, Holland, Nunez, Neto. Pick 7, Watkins, Alvarez, Toney. Let's keep up with these guys and see if this strategy is going to work out for them. Forward is ballsy, especially when I just told you that managers found it tough last year with midfield being a little bit thin. So we'll check in on that and see how it goes. All right, let me just buzz through some of these draft results because they're coming in fast and heavy now. So we've got Declan Rice at 3.8. We've got Rodri at 3.9. If that's surprising to you, spend some time with his fantasy numbers. He was a monster. I like that pick. I don't mind it at all. 3.10 is Alejandro Garnacho, the rising star Alejandro Garnacho. 3.11, the aforementioned Michael Olise. I mean, rumors have it he's the deal's all but done. I saw an article today, this being the 3rd of July. I saw an article today that linked Man U with him, said maybe they'll hijack the move. I don't see it happening. But, again, we're drafting with what we have today, and he currently is still a Crystal Palace player, technically. So, we got Olise. To round out the 3rd round and to start the 4th round, that manager has gone Dwight McNeil and Joao Pedro. I like Joao Pedro in the 4th round. That's a solid pick right there. 4-2, pick 2 of the 4th round, Jeremy Doku. Whew. I don't know, guys. What do you think about that one? Jeremy Doku started, I can't remember exactly how many games. Did he start last year? was it like 16 maybe or less, 13? Man, for a rotation piece, that fourth round pick is an expensive one, certainly, especially when you look at the guys who are right after him. Bernardo Silva, 4-3. Ben White, 4-4. Cody Gakpo, 4-5. Again, could rotate. He's had a really, really strong Euro, so we'll see. 4-6, James Ward-Prowse. And then we have a bit of a run on defenders. This is interesting. So now we've had 4 defenders go. We are at the 7th pick of the 4th round. We saw Alexander-Arnold, Trippier, Tarkowski, and then White go in the 4th round. We have Porro, joint boy, of course. Andrew Robertson, 4-8. Josko Gvardiol at 4-9. Somebody believes in the way that he ended the season that he's going to keep that up. And then no -2 for goals against for the first goal. And Man City do have a lot of like games where they just concede 1, right? So that is an interesting one, certainly. We are back to pick 3. And let's see if pick 3 of the 4th round. And Ryan has gone Mateus Cunha to back up Kai Havertz at that forward position. So 2 mids, 2 forwards. After this round, we'll go ahead and look at some rosters again, and we'll see how people are stacking up. But yeah, I mean, Cunha, you can't deny. It seems like a Wolves forward, unlikely. We've never been able to defend on a Wolves forward not named Pedro Neto. And last year, Cunha proved that wrong. And so while it might be scary, he appears to be the real deal. So I guess I don't mind it. Yeah, it's tough. All right, 5th round. Ending out the 4th. We have Brennan Johnson at round 4, pick 11. Feels early for me, but things are starting to get thin already. This is quite interesting. Things are starting to get thin. So after that, you have Leon Bailey and Dejan Kulusevski. Now, Leon Bailey is one of those forwards that has been moved to a midfielder this year due to that sort of like winger position. Remember the Saka discussion. So the manager who had Holland, Nunez, Neto now has Bailey and Kulusevski in their midfield. Kulusevski, heavily rotated, boom bust kind of guy. Yeah, that's an interesting one. A little bit maybe risky. Bailey, there's discussions of them potentially bringing in someone else. He's also injury prone. He got away with one last year because he didn't get injured, which is for him is a minor miracle. So those two to me feel a little bit risky. But yeah, so that's the manager who's picking first overall. All right, second picker, the manager picking second. Remember they went Cole Palmer, Solanke, Gross, Brennan Johnson. Interesting one. Although he finished strong, and he's probably nailed down that starting spot, don't you think? Kulusevski being the one who would challenge him for that, but it seemed like Ange late in the season trusted Johnson a lot more. And Johnson, say what you will, he did have some decent fantasy returns. So, and then that manager goes Lucas Paquetá. So they have 3 mids, 2 forwards in there. Again, okay, yeah, that's rounding out to be a decent team. Pick 3, which was formerly mine, and Ryan's helping me out with that on his sunny vacation, taking some time out to draft. He went, remember, Saka, Bowen, Havertz, Cunha. He's followed that up with Gabriel Martinelli. In the 5th round, there's so much upside there. I can't blame him. I can't blame him there. He knew when he took that, he knew that was going to trigger me because I had such a nightmare with Gabriel Martinelli last year, and I would bitch and complain to Ryan all the time about it. But yeah, in that 5th round, I can't blame him. Okay, so then the person drafting 4th, remember they went Bruno Fernandes, Gibbs, White right away. The 2 mid, and we were going to see how that worked out for them. So they went Diogo Jota with the rotation piece. Again, kind of ballsy. And then Josko Gvardiol, which to me felt early, but you never know. They followed that up with Brian Mbeumo in the 5th round. Oh, how did Mbeumo fall that far? That feels like an absolute steal to me. I love that. I love that pick. Brian Mbeumo in the 5th round. Beautiful. He could have taken him in the 3rd round where he took Diogo Jota. And I still would have been like, ooh, went mid. Nice job following it up with a good forward. I love this pick. Mbeumo in the 5th. Man. Followed by Daniel Munoz at 5th pick of the 5th round. That person took Robertson last round. So now they are sitting with Foden, De Bruyne in their mid. They've got Jackson as their lone forward right now. And then they've gone Robertson, Munoz. So really trying to, I guess, create a really well-balanced team, which, yeah, that's going to be an interesting strategy to kind of check in on. Like, is that one of those things where, this year you want to load up on forwards and mids and then just spam a bunch of defenders late and hope that some of them hit? Just due to the fact that defenders didn't score that well last year. That kind of seems like what my strategy was going to be going into this, but I'm going to be curious to see how this team pans out, because if taking a couple of elite to semi-elite defenders here in the first 5 rounds for this person works out, I might have my head turned to that strategy. We'll see. Speaking of defenders, Virgil van Dijk has gone 5-6, and that pick 6 is the manager who went Salah, Bruno Guimaraes, and then Tarkowski, Porro, and Van Dijk. That person better be done taking defenders at this point. And the real question becomes, now what do your mids and forwards look like? I'm very interested in this, so we'll check back in on that. Through 5 rounds, that person has 3 defenders. It's a bold move, Cotton. See if it works out for him. All right, pick 7 of the 5th round. Anthony Robinson. I'm not going to call him by his nickname because I think that's stupid / kind of weird. But Anthony Robinson is gone, and that is to the team that has Watkins, Alvarez, Toney. Very strong forward line. James Ward-Prowse as their sole midfielder right now. And then Anthony Robinson. So got to say that midfield looking a little weak at the moment. We'll follow up and see how they do with rounding that out. Pick 8 in the 5th round, Conor Gallagher. I like that value. Seems like good value there to me. Conor Gallagher or Dejan Kulusevski, right? I mean, think about that. Conor value or Lucas Paquetá. I know you're going to tell yourself, Lucas Paquetá's nailed on. What do you mean? Conor Gallagher, there's question marks about him. It might even get transferred. Well, first of all, a transfer probably increases his value as a fantasy asset because he'll be relied upon more wherever he goes. And second of all, spend a minute with Lucas Paquetá's fantasy scores. You will be underwhelmed, to say the absolute least. So, yeah. Conor Gallagher there is an interesting one. I think that's a pretty good value in the 5th round, especially late in the 5th. So, Conor Gallagher, Cody Gakpo, Declan Rice, Kieran Trippier, Alexander Isak. A nice, well-rounded team there. I like that. Christian Romero goes the 9th pick of the 5th round, and that is to the manager who took Ben White. And that follows up the 3 midfielders they took, Rodri, Kudus, Eze. So we're going to have to see how that person fills out their forward line because it could be a questionable one. Okay. Semenyo, 5'10", goes in the 5th round. Semenyo, 5'10". That might seem a little bit early. Again, spend some time with his numbers. They are not bad at all. And so that is an interesting pick. Definitely one for the stat heads, right? You won't be surprised at that pick if you spend some time with his numbers. But question is, can he keep them up? Yeah, I mean, Areola loves him, so I like it. 5'11", Kaoru Mitoma. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Mitoma, sir, what have you done? There's rumors potentially of a transfer, and his fantasy numbers were garbage. He was injured. It just wasn't his year, and you can see it reflected in his draft value. that could be an absolute steal. Or it could be one of those things where that person's regretting it. Now, keep in mind that midfield right now for picker number 11, for manager number 11, looks like Mitoma, Doku, Olise. Hey. All right. Well, if the season begins today, you're fine. If it begins tomorrow and Olise is gone, and Mitoma is potentially out the door, plus there's rotation going on there, yeah, that's a tough one. All right, moving on, 5-12. So the last pick of the 5th round, we've got JP Mateta to follow up that Joao Pedro pick. JP Mateta ended the season quite strong. Pretty goal dependent, but when you're scoring them, it's kind of like Mateus Cunha. When you're scoring them, who's to say that that you can't keep it up? I don't know. And that person follows it up with Simon Adingra, 6-1. Oh, I like that. I really like that value. 6th round, Adingra. That seems like a good one to me, and that goes with their midfield of McNeil and Madison. That's very strong in my opinion. I like that a lot. The forwards, Pedro and Mateta, they're not the strongest, but it's honestly not a bad pairing to have. You don't have anyone who's going to make headlines there, but at the same time, you've got a pretty strong core. Don't hate it. Okay, so that is the first pick of the 6th round. Let me buzz through this 6th round because it's actually already done. So let me just buzz through that, and we're not going to check in on teams yet for another couple of rounds, but let me just go through some of the names in this 6th round. So 6-1, Adingra, we talked about that. 6-2, Gabriel Magalhaes. Seems maybe a little bit early for him. I don't know. He's so clean sheet dependent, but Arsenal gets a lot of them. That's a hard one. I plead the 5th. Christopher Nkunku, 6-3, could be incredible value there. Christopher Nkunku, 6-3, or if he remains a rotation piece and doesn't, actually nail down a starting job, then that could be a really terrible pick. So that's a tough one with Nkunku. 6-4, Frankie Rodrigo Muniz. I like that. I like that one in the 6th round. Frankie Muniz in the 6th round. 6-5, Alexis McAllister. Again, feels like really good value there. 6-6, John McGinn. Yeah, I mean, he's your kind of set and forget piece, but he's going to get you some weeks 3, and some weeks he'll get you 12. He's just kind of a role-playing guy, which you need those on your team. Speaking of Aston Villa, Ross Barkley, 6-7. I like that pick. Can he keep up what he was doing last year? We're all hoping he can because we're loving this resurgence. 6-8, Rasmus Højlund. This is an interesting time to kind of talk about United forwards. So Rasmus Højlund, and I was just looking at this news today. Rasmus Højlund is, or at least ended the season in pretty decent form. He, I think, scored, I want to say 10 goals. I'm not looking at the number at the moment, but I think it was 10 goals. And, ended the season in pretty decent form. The only problem with that is Man United apparently is trying to bring in Joshua Zirkzee. Now, will they play together? It's hard to say. Some in the United camp seem to think that they can. Where does that leave Rashford? Where does that leave Garnacho? Do they do more of like a 4-4-2 type of thing, or maybe like a 4-2-3-1? Because Garnacho needs to play on a wing, and Rashford prefers to play on a wing. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But in the 6th round for Højlund, I don't hate it. 6-9 goes Leandro Trossard, and I'm telling you what, Ryan at pick 3 goes Dominic Szoboszlai to follow that up. I know for a fact that Ryan wanted Trossard there. I didn't talk to him about it. I just know that it's true because he took Martinelli, and I'm sure he wanted Trossard to follow that up to basically nail down that spot in the Arsenal starting 11, which would have been tasty. I bet you he's disappointed that happened, and that's one of those draft day things where you just curse your luck. It's what it is, man. That's one of those things. I mean, you could probably make a trade happen afterwards between him and that manager who's drafted right before him in that round. All right, 6'11" goes Reece James. God, I just can't. He's a do not draft for me. I just can't do it. But if you have faith, by all means, go for it. 6'12", Marcus Tavernier. I honestly like that. I like Tavernier. He's healthy again. And that person follows it up with Sarabia. So that was the manager who went Holland, Nunez, Neto. They've now gone Bailey, Kulusevski, Tavernier, Sarabia. If Sarabia wins that spot back in that midfield, that could actually be a pretty solid little midfield. Surprisingly, they kind of turned it around there. I like that. So pick 2, the Reece James manager follows it up with William Saliba, which feels a little bit early for me, to be honest, for Saliba. He's very, 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 very clean sheet dependent. But, far be it from me. Arsenal does keep clean sheets, so it is what it is. All right, pick 3 has gone with their third forward. So remember they had Kai Havertz and Matheus Cunha. Moussa Diaby. Again, kind of betting on the fact that he's going to get more play time, that he's going to sort of continue his evolution into a more dependable fantasy asset. I like that. It's a high upside pick right there. It's a high upside. Read our article in the draft kit on drafting with drafting for guys with high upside and drafting to win the league, right? Totti, I believe, wrote the article. It's something called drafting for... It's like drafting to win or lose the league, not mid-table. And it's just a way of saying that when you go guys with high upside, that there's also a lot of risk there. So yeah, it could backfire on you, but it's either that and you play the waiver wire, you be an active manager during the season, or you draft a whole bunch of guys who are, I was mentioning John McGinn earlier. Yeah, maybe you do a whole draft of those type of guys. You're not winning your league. You're going to be very comfortably mid-table. And what does that do for you? Unless your league awards money for every single position, it's just not going to get you where you need to be. So, yeah, Diaby, I like that. 7-4 is Pinnock. 7-5, Solly March. Ooh. Yeah, he's still recovering from an injury, but that feels like value there. 7-5, that's not bad. Solly March. Ryan Christie goes 7-6. I just don't like it. Ryan Christie, to me, I just don't see him as a fantasy asset. I know he kind of is, but I just can't. I just can't. Especially with some other guys who are around and who are available. So, Joakim Anderson, 7-7. Diogo Dalot, 7-8. Those feel about right. Adam Wharton, 7-9. Remember, had a really good end of the season. Was really boomer bust, though, fantasy-wise. Was really boomer bust. Had weeks where he was kind of like really meh, and then weeks where he was better. Kind of a John McGinn type of character as well. So we're hoping he continues his evolution and that we'll see better, higher scores from him in the future. Malo Gusto goes at 7-10. Fabian Scher, 7-11. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall goes 7-12. Feels like good value if he does nail down some sort of starting spot there. There's just so many damn bodies in Chelsea. Like, how? How is he? I mean, he's got the familiarity with Maresca. I'm aware of all that. I did the Leicester flashback for our draft kit, so I'm well aware of what Dewsbury Hall did last year under Maresca. I know he loves him. But at the same time, I don't know. It just seems like there's too many. I mean, is he really going to play the 10 over somebody like a Gallagher? Is he? I mean, Palmer can play the 10 too. He could also play on the right. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks in that team. I want to see preseason for Chelsea. I need to see preseason for Chelsea. Okay, so the manager who took Dewsbury Hall followed that up with Daichi Kamada from Crystal Palace, their new signing, attacking midfielder, for all intents and purposes, looks to be kind of taking over Olise's role. I like that pick in the 8th round, absolutely. 8-2 is Gabriel Jesus. 8-2, Gabriel Jesus. Man, again, how the mighty have fallen. Wow. Does he take back that spot? I talked to Arsenal supporters. Ryan will tell you he doesn't think so. Says that he's going to continue to kind of be a rotation piece, super sub. Oh, brutal. I had him and Martinelli last year, which is why I have such a sour taste in my mouth for those two players. But yeah, 8th round, second pick, Gabriel Jesus, followed by Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So this is the type of company he keeps now. Anthony Alonga goes 8-4. Kyle Walker goes 8-5. Ugh. Thomas Souček 8-6. Jared Branthwaite 8-7. Steffi Mavididi. I love this pick in the 8th round. Forward for Leicester. He is he's an attacking winger. He was fantastic under the Maresca system. Fast, just like pacey, tricky winger. Contributes on some assists. I really like him. I think that's going to be good value. First goalie off the board, 8-9, Onana. That's a choice. That's all I'm going to say. 8-10, Alex Iwobi. That's that picker number 3, Alex Iwobi. Again, underrated fantasy asset. Always underrated. Perpetually underrated. Alex Iwobi. Gonna just score fantasy points for your team. It's wild. He just does it. So in the 8th round, absolutely. So let's revisit that midfield. Saka, Bowen, Martinelli, Szoboszlai, Iwobi. I mean, spoiled for choice there. I love that. The forwards, Havertz, Cunha, Diaby. Probably need to strengthen that just a little bit. Maybe back that up with a couple of options. Hopefully that can come in if Diaby doesn't start. Although you could easily just start 2 forwards and slot in more mids because you've got plenty of those on that team. Okay, Rashford goes 8-11. Boy, that could be incredible value, couldn't it? 8-11 for Marcus Rashford? Could be. Again, could be. I mean, the way he was playing last year, we would have no hope that he's going to turn it around at all. Why would we? He looked terrible. Absolutely terrible. But, yeah, I mean, for a flyer in the 8th round on a forward who's going to get playtime and whose team is still kind of gelling and hopefully could turn things around, yeah, why not? Joe Linton goes 8-12, and then on the turn, 9-1 is Julio Enciso in the 9th round. I like that. I like Julio Enciso in the 9th round. That's a really good pick. And then Ibrahim Konate goes 9-2. Pretty risky one there. You know, will he start? They're even talking about potentially transfer for him. Does he retain that spot over even somebody like a Gomez? And then, of course, there's the Kwanzaa question involved as well. 9-3, Sergio Reguilon. This is an interesting one. So this manager gambling a little bit on the fact that he's going to get a move back either to Brentford or somewhere else that he's going to have value. Obviously, the transfer would mean that he has solidified playtime and has value in the team. It's tough, though. I mean, as it stands, what do you do with that? That's a tough one. 9-4, Connor Bradley. Again, kind of a swing for the fences play here. Not quite a lottery ticket, but certainly, you know, if he gets that spot, if Trent moves to the midfield, this person's got a steal in the 9th round. Absolute steal. But, you know, of course, if he doesn't, then that's one of those players where do you end up holding him all year? Right? Even when he's not playing? You can't just drop him. It's too much value there because when he starts, he's insane in terms of fantasy numbers. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. even just drafting him, you put yourself in a hard spot. You put yourself in a tough position because at what point, if he's not starting, are you comfortable dropping, or are you trading to the Trent manager? That's really tough. That's really tough. Yeah, 9-4, Connor Bradley. 9-5, Tyreek Mitchell. 9-6, Leaf Davis. All right, our first Ipswich player is off the board. Leaf Davis had 22 assists in all competitions last year. That is wild. Can he keep that up? Probably not. No, just because he's in the Premier League now. Like, let's be honest, right? But he's a major part of their attack. And so you gotta think that, keeping the manager, all tactics relatively being the same, he's still going to factor heavily into that team. Jack Grealish goes 9-7. Ouch. I don't love it, but maybe he gets a transfer away. They've been talking about that. This manager has Thomas Souček, John McGinn, James Ward-Prowse as their midfield. It's not great. It's not great. But a couple of, what ifs. If James Ward-Prowse, gets that spot back, retains it, he's on all the DFKs, then yeah, that could be value there, I guess. That's a tough one, man. I don't know. All right, moving on. Scott McTominay, 8th pick of the 9th round. Don't love that, but all right. 9th pick of the 9th round, Purvis Estupiñán, hoping he can turn things around. Bit of a gamble there, but hey, at least he's getting play time for now. Amad Diallo is the 10th pick of the 9th round. Okay. All right. Cool. Harvey Elliott, 11th pick of the 9th round. Another swing for the fences. Can he impress the manager enough to actually nail down some sort of starting role? What Liverpool aren't struggling for are midfielders. And so, well, unless you're talking about defensive midfielders, which he's not one. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see where he slots in or if he does at all. Ben Chilwell, 12th pick of the 9th round, and then that manager completes the turn into the 10th round with Harvey Barnes. 2nd pick of the 10th round, Noni Madueke. I really like that pick. And if there is a transfer involved for him, his value only goes up and up and up. Because whoever takes him is going to see what he did in limited work last year, especially at the end of the season, and he was fantastic. He was very, very good, and even for fantasy, he was good. So I like that. I like that pick. 3rd pick of the 10th round, Hudson Odoi. 4th pick of the 10th round, Richarlison. 5th pick of the 10th round, Chris Wood. I mean, yeah, I guess he's a role player, certainly. Although, let me tell you that manager's forward line. Gakpo, Isak, Wood. It's not great. 6th pick of the 10th round, Vitaly Mykolenko. 7th pick of the 10th round. Oh, this is new boy to Brentford, Igor Thiago. That's their record signing. And that could be a massive value there at that point in the draft. I think you'll start to see his draft value rise. And especially as soon as Tony leaves, he is basically propped up to be the Tony replacement. And so once you see Tony leaving this summer, which inevitably he's still, supposedly going to do, then I think you're going to see Thiago. He's just called Thiago, which I know is confusing Liverpool fans, giving you some PTSD. But no, Thiago, you'll see him, I think, climbing up draft boards a little bit. Okay, James Justin, 8th pick of the 10th round. Jacob Murphy, 9th pick of the 10th round. Ian Matson, 10th pick of the 10th round. Jamie Vardy, Hwang Hee-chan to round out that 10th round. We're on to the 11th. Things are not as exciting anymore. Obviously, we've kind of gotten most of the sexy big name players out of the way. So let's revisit some teams. And as this slowly sort of ticks along, I won't bore you all with all of the picks late in the draft. Certainly, you can go ahead and grab the draft kit. And there is an article in the draft kit that is called Mock Draft Collection. And basically all of the mock drafts we do as Draft Society, as Inner Circle members, any of those things, we will be posting those and throughout the summer and letting you know the changes in those. So, for example, if we do one today and then for the next mock draft, somebody like for example, for Everton, they appear to have just signed Ilman Ndiaye, or Ndiaye, I think is how you say it. It's a tough one for me. Anyway, he will most certainly be drafted, and I'm kind of excited about his draft prospects. He's not in the game yet. So what you'll see when you go to that article is, like, for the next one, we'll say, hey, these players have been added to the game. You can now draft them. So yeah, we're hoping that they stay on top of it and are adding players constantly. All right, moving right along. Let's kind of go through some of these teams here. Okay, person who picked first overall, forward line. We've got Holland, Nunez, Neto, and then Hwang in the 10th. For their midfield, they've got Bailey, Kulusevski, Tavernier, Sarabia, Joe Linton, Julio Enciso, Kobe Mainu. For the moment, this person has 0 defenders. So we'll check back in and see how that's going for them. But 0 at the moment. Just the 0. All right. Pick 2. For their forward line, they have Solanke, Johnson, Rashford, Vardy. I don't hate it. For their midfield, they have Palmer, Gross, Paquetá. Oh, and Pereira. They just took Andres Pereira. Nice pick in the 11th. So, yeah, okay. That's looking pretty decent. The back line, Reece James, Saliba, Konate. A lot of risk there. Some reward if things work out, like they want it to. But yeah, that's what they're looking at for that team. All right, pick 3. Their forward line, Kai Havertz, Cunha, Moussa Diaby. Their midfield, Saka, Bowen, Martinelli, Soboslai, Iwobi. Their defense so far, Reguilon, Maatsen, and this person also took Jose Sa in the 11th round, and I saw in the chat that they didn't mean to take that person. And Jeannie, who's running the draft, said, it's the 11th round, dude. Who cares? It's fine. So I know if they could have that pick back, they probably would have taken somebody else, but is what it is. Okay. 4th pick overall, right? Yep. Okay, that's where we're at. 4th pick overall. Forward line of Diogo Jota, Brian Mbomo, and that's it. That's it for their forwards. That person's actually picking right now in the 12th, so let's see if they followed up with another forward. But, wow. They did. They took Yakuba Minte from Brighton, which is actually, I like that. I like that pick a lot. Remember that Brighton just took Yakuba Minte from Newcastle on that PSR deadline of like June 30th or whatever. And he had a great season. Never once put on a Newcastle shirt. Never once. But he had a fantastic season. And I'm actually pretty excited about him. He is listed as a forward in the game. So that's his 3rd forward, and I like that. That's a nice late round pick there. Okay. This person's midfield is Bruno Fernandes, Morgan Gibbs White, Leandro Trossard, Jacob Murphy, Emile Smith-Rowe, who's rumored for a transfer as well. I like that. For their defense, they're looking at Gvardiol, Pinnock, Bradley. So, yeah, things are working out fairly well for him. Okay, pick number 5. Their forward line, Nico Jackson, Rasmus Højlund, Steffi Mavididi. That's it so far. Needs a little bit of work, but it's not terrible. Midfield, Foden, De Bruyne, and Solly March, and Will Smallbone, I suppose, if you want to include that in the 12th. Okay, that's fine. It's not bad. Potential rotation risks there, some headaches potentially, but yeah, I mean it's a decent backbone. Speaking of backbones, their back line: Robertson, Munoz, Mitchell, Justin, Boley. That's just an example of too many defenders in a draft. This person needed more dependable midfielders. They needed somebody like, instead of instead of Tyreek Mitchell, maybe they went with a Callum Hudson-Odoi even, or maybe they went with a Noni Madueke. Maybe they went with a Jacob Murphy, or Julio Enciso went. Oh no, I guess Julio Enciso went before that. But still, instead of a Tyreek Mitchell in the 9th, this person probably needed another dependable midfielder. Okay, pick 6. Their forward line looks like Mohamed Salah. Wow. Mohamed Salah, they didn't take another forward until the 10th round, and that was Igor Thiago. And then Eddie Nketiah in the 11th. This person's playing a dangerous game. I just don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, if I'm being honest. Their midfield looks like Bruno Guimaraes, again in the 2nd round. Ross Barkley, Ryan Christie, Matthias Jensen in the 12th, Moises Caicedo in the 13th. And then they have a defense of Tarkowski, Porro, Van Dijk, Branthwaite, Leif Davis, all taken by the 9th round. Once again, feels like too many defenders for me. Left themselves kind of weak, especially at forward. Okay, pick number 7, Ollie Watkins, Julian Alvarez, Ivan Toney as their forwards, and they just took Connor Chaplin in the 13th round. So not bad. I mean, there's always a place for promoted forwards. Look at what happened last year especially with the Luton forwards. So there's a place for them, certainly. I like that forward line. Their first 3 picks were forwards. Let's see how everything else worked out. In the midfield, Ward-Prowse, John McGinn, Souček, Grealish, Enzo Fernandez, Lewis Cook. Okay. The midfield could have been stronger, right? So I wonder if maybe instead of Tony, they might have taken a midfielder there. Yeah, that's a tough one because Declan Rice went right before them, and I sort of wonder, in fact, you know what? Let me paint this picture for you. So this person took Ollie Watkins, Julian Alvarez. Then it's coming back around to them. No, they take Julian Alvarez. It's coming back around to them. Oh, no, I take it back. I thought the draft was going the other direction, but it wasn't. Declan Rice was taken right after this person took Tony. So it goes Declan Rice, Rodri, Alejandro Garnacho. I would have liked any of them for this person's team. Not that Tony is necessarily a worse fantasy prospect than those guys. I think Tony's a good pick here for somebody who didn't already have 2 forwards. Anyway, so you can be the judge of that. Again, midfield, a little bit sketch. But defense, Robinson, Anderson, Mikolenko. That's it so far through the 12th. No, sorry, through the 13th with Connor Chaplin. Okay, pick number 8. Their forward line looks like this. Isak, Gakpo, Wood, Werner. Werner in the 13th is interesting. That's some value. That's another one of those guys, though, man. Werner, take him in the 13th. Okay, you're like, yeah, that's value. What if he doesn't start for the first 5 weeks? That's not really a guy you can just drop, right? There's so many of those types of guys where it's just, you're just really like putting yourself between a rock and a hard place. You can't drop him. Every week he doesn't start, his trade value plummets. And so, man, those types of players, they just get scary really fast, and their value suffers a lot. So, yeah, that's an interesting one to me. Okay. So, again, that was Pick number 8, Isak, Gakpo, Wood, and Timo Werner. Their midfield, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher, Alexis McAllister, Scott McTominay. I love them all except for McTominay. I don't know why in the 9th. I feel like he would have fallen another 4 rounds easily. But that's just me. Defenders, Trippier, gotta love that. Diogo Dalot, Kyle Walker, Ryan Ait-Nouri, which I think if you're in leagues with me, whatever, here you go. I'm going to take him late in every single draft. I'm definitely going to take him late because there are rumors linking him to other teams, potential move away, and any move out of Wolves where they'll get scored on less, and maybe they utilize their fullbacks more, he's going to have more value. So this person took him and then Kiwior in the 14th, which, again, Kiwi in the 14th is another one of those rotation guys. Tough call, but if you're willing to hold, great. Pick number 9. Let's go with forwards first because remember, you probably don't remember at this point, they didn't take a forward until the 6th round. Rodrigo Muniz. Okay? So we start with Rodrigo Muniz, Anthony Elanga, Richarlison, Patson Daka. Guys, you need a forward before the 6th round. Okay? Just something to keep in mind. Midfield. I love this person's midfield. Eze, Kudus, Rodri. Oh, that's a dream. Yeah, but where you took Rodri, I think you could have taken a forward. Maybe you went a Joao Pedro there. Maybe you went... let's see who else went after that. It feels too early for Rasmus Højlund. Maybe... Okay, this is a tough spot in the draft right here, guys. Interesting. I'll have to look at more into that. Is that like a barren kind of wasteland there for forwards? Near that. Like after the likes of Neto, Havertz, Cunha all go off the board, Mbomo, is there sort of like a wasteland out there for forwards? It might be the case. That's going to be interesting as we kind of research this over the last part of the season. Sorry, the last part of the offseason. Okay, so we went through their forwards, right? All right. Eze, Kudus, Rodri, then Adam Wharton, Abdoulaye Doucouré in the 11th. Great pick in the 11th. I know he was terrible at the end of the year, but he started off like a house on fire. He was great. And then Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich in the 12th round. Yeah, give it to me for sure. So those are great picks right there. And then defense, Ben White, Romero, Estupinian, Christensen from Leicester. I like him. He could be used kind of more as like a fullback type option. And in that case, the fullbacks for Cooper do really, really well. I'll remind you of his fullbacks in 22-23. They were Nico Williams when he broke out. And Serge Aurier. Remember Serge Aurier quietly just having great fantasy games in 22-23? Yeah, so that's I like those. I like those a lot. All right, pick number 10. We've got for forward line Semenyo, Nkunku, Hudson-Odoi, Calvert-Lewin, Mateus França in the 16th now. Again, this person waited 4 rounds to take a forward, and as a result, their first forward was Semenyo, followed by Nkunku. Now, yes, Nkunku, that could be the pick of the draft in the 6th round. Absolutely could. But knee-jerk reaction is that it kind of leaves them a little bit thin at forward, or just that they don't have like that big name forward. However, when you see what they did in their midfield, it kind of makes sense. They went 4 mids, but I do think this person had the draft fall to them in a way where they just couldn't pass on these players. They took Odegaard 1, they took Gordon 2, they took Garnacho 3, and Bernardo Silva in the 4th round. Yeah, if the draft hands you that, you figure the rest of it out later. I mean, you can't. You got to do it. So then they've got Diallo in the 9th. They've got Mudryk in the 11th. They've got McAtee in the 14th. Interesting choices there. I think you probably end up dropping a lot of those, to be honest. But they're sort of taking the swing for the fences type of approach to it, which, yeah, I mean, can work out just fine. And you just work the waiver wire heavily in the beginning part of the season when it looks, fairly obvious that some of these players aren't going to pan out. So yeah, that's their midfield. And then defense, they didn't take a defender until the 7th round with Malo Gusto. I like that. And then Luke Shaw, Levi Colwill in the 12th and 13th, and then Jan Bednarek in the 15th. That's more of the kind of defender type drafting strategy that I'm going to employ. Is sort of look for those dependable guys / somebody like a Colwill who is more of like a hopefully an upside play. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. I just think far too many of these teams have too many defenders. There's really no need for it. And you can, last year showed us anything, you can stream defender pretty easily. All right. Team number 11, and then I'll let you guys go here as soon as we get through this pick number 12, and we can kind of wrap this up. Okay, team number 11, their forward line is Son, Luis Diaz, Gabriel Jesus, Evan Ferguson. I don't like Evan Ferguson as a fantasy asset, but you guys know that. And in the 14th round, hey, whatever, right? I mean, maybe he turns it around this year. So they only took the 4 forwards. I'm going to probably try to leave a draft with at least 5 forwards. But 5 seems about the number. 4 to 5 is pretty good. Because remember, you can start 1 if you want. Midfielders, Olise, Doku, Mitoma. Wow. Again, huge gamble. Swing for the fences. Hope it works out for you, my dude. Harvey Elliott, Noni Madueke, Alex Scott. So again, that midfield could have used some strengthening. Although if it's draft day, let's be honest here, right? I said you draft with what's available to you. If it's draft day, they're not taking Olise. If the move is imminent, they're not taking Olise there. So they're going to get somebody like a McNeil, like a Bernardo Silva. Rice, Rodri Garnacho went right before them, which I'm sure they were cursing at. And so, yeah, they could have had any of those guys. They could have had even like a Bailey, I guess, if you wanted to throw him in the mix. But, yeah, there were options there. I don't think they would have gone Olise had this been actual draft day and there were concrete rumors. Okay. In defense, this person had Gabriel Magalhaes, Fabian Schär, Mickey Van de Ven. Don't draft Mickey Van de Ven, please. And then Marc Cucurella and Christopher Ayer. So, yeah, interesting defensive line. I don't know. Things got away from them a little bit as the draft went on. I'll just say that. Okay, pick 12. Remember, this is the one that took Trent first round. So let's see how it worked out for them. Joao Pedro, JP Mateta, Jadon Sancho. All right. Again, lottery ticket, sure. Ibrahim Osman from Brighton and Jordan Ayew are their forwards. Oh, okay. Let's just say that the Trent thing, following it up with Madison and McNeil, waiting on forward, left them a little thin, to say the least, to say the absolute least. So, okay, midfield, Madison, McNeil, Adingra, Dewsbury Hall, Kamada, Harvey Barnes, Dango Ouattara. I mean, yeah, I like that. Defense, Trent, of course, Ben Chilwell, Milos Kerkez, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So thin in a couple different areas. I think, yeah, this is an interesting one. So if you're going to take a defender early, let's see what happened to the Trippier owner. They went Isak, Trippier, Declan Rice, Gakpo, Gallagher, McAllister. Yeah, see, they sprinkled in that Gakpo pick, which even is risky, but at least gives you kind of a guy, who can. Well, I don't know. I take it back. Gakpo's. He's not my favorite draft asset. I much rather would have had somebody like a Cunha or a Joao Pedro. God, maybe even JP Mateta. Definitely Brian Mbeumo, who went in the 5th round. Okay. So it's definitely a risk, guys. It looks like these teams that went with a defender early, they definitely hamstrung themselves just a little bit. So it's definitely a risk for sure. Alexander-Arnold, Chilwell, Kirkez, Wan-Bissaka. All right. For anybody curious, there were two goalkeepers that went before the 12th round, and that was Allison in the 11th and Onana in the 8th, which feels like a reach to me. Pickford in the 15th, Vicario in the 12th, Raya, last pick of the draft, like that. Pope, round 16, Ederson, round 16. So, again, keepers are well worth waiting on. Just wait. Just wait and wait and wait for keepers. There's really no reason. Okay, and I think that about rounds it out, guys. As we get further on in the summer, I will definitely have some more thoughts for you in terms of how drafts are shaping up, and also kind of like the conversation I was starting to have around dead spots, around barren areas, those kinds of things. I'll hopefully try to flesh that out a little bit and let you all know kind of how that's looking. So I don't have a winner to this draft. I don't have a loser to this draft. There will be a write-up of this draft as well, but yeah, certainly I'm not going to declare a winner or a loser. I'm just looking at draft strategies and what works out for people. So hopefully this was fun and this was worth a listen. Little literally kind of live mock draft, my live reactions as it went. Some curious and interesting strategies. Last thing, remember when I mentioned that Ilman Ndiaye was not in the system? Well, he actually was. It's just that everybody forgot about him. So what I did was went ahead and queued him up for me and Ryan took him in the 12th round. So I don't think that'll continue happening. He's probably going to slide up a little bit, just based on what he did at Sheffield United 2 years ago. But yeah, that was that was kind of fun. Okay. With that, we'll kind of leave it there. Of course, hit us up on X, on Twitter, if you've got any thoughts or comments on this, or better yet, get on over to the Discord. Get involved on Discord. That's where literally everything's happening now. That is where the community is. That is where kind of people are talking, rating each other's teams, joining leagues. Get on to Discord. Please do it ASAP. All right. Have a wonderful summer, everybody. Happy drafting. Don't do it anytime soon, please. There's too much going on in the transfer world. And on that note, we will probably have a pod specifically for transfers coming up here very soon. But in the meantime, everybody, enjoy, have fun. Americans, happy 4th of July. Happy end of the Euros, everybody else. And let's cheer on your team of choice. All right, that's it for me. Cheers, everyone. Take care.